Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today as we dive into our Q1 roadmap webinar. It's one of my favorite things to do here within the organization, start to look at all the amazing stuff that our product organization has been cooking up. My name is Chase, and I'm joined today with our leadership team across the JumpCloud platform as we dive into all the amazing things that are coming down our way, especially as we start to enter this brand new year of 2022. So with that, before we actually dive in, a quick disclaimer, because we are having the crystal ball, if you will, looking into the future with software, and so we also want to respond to all the other events outside of the world. So everything that you see here is subject to change, but we are always going to do our best. And if you have any questions whatsoever outside of these webinars, please feel free to reach out to your account teams. We love to have those conversations with you. Before we dive in to all the amazing stuff that we are going to be cooking up in Q1 and beyond, I wanted to take a quick look back at all the recent releases that we've had within the last quarter. So one of the best releases is that we actually changed a little bit of the UI within the console. So if you haven't logged in recently, just look for that little flag up top and you can actually see all the different releases that are coming out on a weekly, daily basis. But here's a quick snapshot of some of the fan favorites that we've had within the last quarter. So free live remote assist, we now supporting Linux POP support, MFA for LDAP. We also have cert-based radius authentication, which is really exciting. We've also updated our support case portal, so you have a lot more information coming when you're interacting with the rest of our team. We've enhanced the way that you interact with SO connectors through OpenID Connect. We've also added recovery email address. We have new reports as well as cloud insights and all that and more. And so with that, I'm actually going to hand it over to the rest of the team to dive into a little bit more of what's coming in Q1. And so to start, we'll be looking at holistically across identity, access, and authentication. Eric, can you kick us off?
Absolutely, happy to do so. Hey, everybody. Let's talk a little bit about our identity and access management pieces within the platform. That covers our directory product, authentication, access management, identity management. So let's start. I know that Chase just mentioned a few things we've released. Let's scroll actually one slide back if we can. Thank you. Thanks, Chase. So just wanted to mention quickly things that have been launched in Q4 just to raise awareness and make sure that you're trying out our best new features. One thing you should be aware of is in the context of provisioning identities, we've significantly expanded our SCIM catalog. We went from very few identity management pre-built integrations to nearly 100 pre-built integrations, which basically allow you to automate a significant portion of account creation, which really simplifies onboarding. We've released OIDC, OpenID Connect, that will allow you to basically address single sign-on for additional types of applications beyond SAML. As you can see within the platform, we've pre-built, integrated many more HR applications, HR environments that you can bring identities from, update identities from within JumpCloud, and much more. Password Manager is a big release. I know we got many questions on that, and I'm going to address some of the stuff we've done and what we're going to build in the coming few months. On the security front or authentication front, we're going to roll out a rolling launch of how to address push bombing. We've started with the ability to show the city and state from which a push notification is actually coming from on the JumpCloud Protect app. And we'll talk in a moment about what's coming next. A big release that came out lately is certificate-based authentication for radios. We've seen significant interest in that. What that really allows you to do is to integrate radius endpoints for Wi-Fi access, for VPN access, and instead of using a username and a password to log the users onto those resources, you could be using a certificate deployed to your laptop. What that means is a secure passwordless flow to log into your Wi-Fi or VPN. We're starting to move into conditional access, which ties not only into user context, but also into device context, which means device posture. The first release that you've just seen is disk encryption. Is my disk encryption on my laptop? And based on that, take a real-time access decision. And in a moment, again, we'll see how we're planning to increase those capabilities. We've finished up a journey we started on about a year ago to be able to apply multi-factor to any resource protected by JumpCloud. One of those is LDAP, and having had push authentication deployed for LDAP, we've now added DOTP as well, which truly brings all JumpCloud supported multi-factor authentication factors to all JumpCloud managed resources. And last but not least, this is a change you've all seen rolled out lately, is the login flow. How a user logs into JumpCloud has slightly changed. Instead of the more traditional method, which is entering your username and password on a single screen, the users now will first enter their username and then be prompted for either a password or multi-factor or any factor which is set up for that specific user based on the email used to identify the user identifier. So that's what we've been busy with in Q4. Let's move on to what's coming in Q1, H1, and a bit beyond, just to give you the broader vision. So one of our biggest themes for the coming years is Open Directory platform. You've been hearing us change how we talk about the JumpCloud platform to talk about an Open Directory. And what really is an Open Directory? An Open Directory is a directory of identities and devices and events and connections and many, many more aspects that can be managed within IT and cybersecurity, within an IT infrastructure. And the fact that it is open basically means that you are not locked down to a single technology, you are not locked down to a single vendor, and you can mix and match between different identity sources, different identity targets, different authentication mechanisms, different access management capabilities. And you can truly integrate with many environments. In that context, we've added many HR integrations and scheme-based integrations, and we're expanding our REST-based APIs for custom integrations. And in the coming quarter, what you will see happening is that we're adding the ability, in addition to manually importing users into JumpCloud through REST APIs, also to be able to import user updates. That becomes significantly important when you integrate with an HR environment. Because when you're integrated in pulling user attributes from HR environments and other third-party directories, you really want to be able to change access in real time when a change happens within an HR system. So if Eric moves from product management to sales, that notifies now JumpCloud, and within JumpCloud, you can take action to provide more access based on group association, group membership, and etc. The next step after that is adding the ability to schedule those user imports. So you can actually, you'll be able within the platform to schedule them so they happen on a recurring basis, and there's no need to handle that manually. The step after that, and this goes slightly beyond Q1, is the ability to also export identities via REST APIs to any identity target, any environment where you want to provision accounts to, and you want to update user attributes in. As part of that holistic view for how to manage identities in an automated fashion, in a way that doesn't consume too much of your time and effort, we're adding the ability to automate group membership. As you know, within the platform today, you can set up group suggestions. So when an attribute changes on a user, JumpCloud, the platform, will suggest to you, hey, maybe Eric needs to be moved into this group, maybe the sales group, or maybe the Austin, Texas group, right? Or maybe the super admin group. And what we're adding in the coming quarters is the ability to flip a switch which says, if that condition happens, automate that decision and move that user automatically into that specific group. Obviously, with auditing and with reporting capabilities, which will give you the confidence that you're doing the right thing. Last but not least, expect to see in the coming weeks and months significant enhancements, changes, improvements in how you can integrate with different applications. What that means is that if today you need to roam between single sign-on integrations, identity management integrations across different parts of the platform, there will be a much more sleek flow and easy way to set up an integration for both single sign-on, identity management, or one of those in a way that is much more friendly and easy to use. Moving on to our second important topic within the identity and access portion of the portfolio is modern authentication, or what we call authentication from anywhere to anywhere. We want to get the platform to a point where you can log a user into JumpCloud with any credential. That could be a JumpCloud credential, a JumpCloud password, a biometric authentication, maybe with Windows Hello or Touch ID, a platform authenticator, maybe a third-party authenticator, such as a FIDO token, a Yubico token, or maybe even a third-party credential from Azure AD or Okta or or Google, any third-party provider. You'd be able to decide how you want to authenticate different users into the platform, and by doing that, JumpCloud will authenticate you with different technologies into different resources. So maybe you'd be authenticated with TOTP or through SAML to some resources, where other resources will be authenticated using a certificate or token-based authentication. The first two changes you will notice in the platform in the coming weeks and months is that new modern login service, which is basically a new web user interface to log into JumpCloud, will appear in two significant areas. The first one is the admin portal, where you will see changes that will allow admins to authenticate with modern authentication. What that will mean is that you will now be able to apply more multi-factor options to the admin portal, as well as apply more sophisticated password complexities, password policies to the admin account login. The second portion is we're adding those same capabilities for device login, and I'm sure Greg will touch on that in a few seconds as well. This is where JumpCloud's power comes together, where our ability to manage authentication and identities and our ability to manage devices really build a story that almost no other vendor in the market can truly tell. We will bake modern authentication into the device, which will later on allow you to single sign users from device login onto other resources. What that sets us up for is that in the second half of this year, we'll be adding capabilities tied into passwordless authentication for simpler user flows and federated authentication for third-party providers authenticating a user into JumpCloud. Moving on to the next topic and moving quickly to two additional, I'd say minor themes, but still critically important. We've seen a significant push from customers around the world to address push bombing. We've taken that extremely seriously with the risk associated with MFA fatigue attacks, push bombing attacks. We've started by introducing city and state notifications on JumpCloud Protect. So if you're trying to log in, or if you're not trying to log in, and you get a push saying, please approve a push from Norway, and you're not in Norway, that flags a risk or a fraudulent activity. And you'd be able to identify that and flag your admin. What's coming next is that we are also adding the ability to limit the push attempts in the backend to a single attempt at a time. So if you are trying to authenticate using push, JumpCloud in the backend will protect you by saying if anyone else malicious is trying to push to you at the same time a push notification, we will block that for you so you don't mistakenly approve the wrong transaction. Later on in Q2, we're going to add additional capabilities such as challenge codes on JumpCloud Protect and deny reasons, which means I can deny a request by saying this is a malicious request and flag the admin to take action. Next on the list, and almost last, is conditional access. As part of that significant differentiator which JumpCloud has, which is the ability to manage device context and device content and identity and access, we're starting to overlap the two and bring that power to some more significant capabilities, is specifically here with conditional access. So moving away from only user context, we're now looking at how can we posture a device, and based on that device posture, take a real-time access request. So we started with disk encryption, which is live. We're moving on to OS version. Is your OS updated to the latest macOS version or latest Windows version. And based on that, decide whether you can access an application or not. Is antivirus running? And there's much more coming to determine whether that desktop is in a legitimate situation or not. Later on in the year, you'll be seeing that extend to mobile and BYOD as well. And last on my end, but definitely not least, is the password manager. We've seen an amazing, explosive growth of customers and prospects using our new password manager that was released last year. It came with a flood of new requests, which we're addressing right now. The list is too long to fit on a single slide, and I just want to call out quickly the most important ones in Q1. We're, for a Safari browser extension, we're adding account recovery capabilities. One thing I'd call out that is unique about JumpCloud Password Manager is that it is a decentralized system. It is not a system that keeps all of your passwords in the cloud and potentially can be hacked. It is secured very strongly on devices, and when it travels between devices, it is always encrypted and very, very secure. So we're adding account recovery capabilities. We're adding the ability for admins to manage the password manager in more sophisticated ways, like creating shared folders and subfolders. We're adding policies. For example, how can a user set up a backup path? Or how can a user set up default settings for the password generator? Or how can a user see their password history or password strength? Many additional things coming in Q1. Better import flows for importing passwords from third-party password managers. Admins will be able to see a dashboard of password health scores, so we can make sure that our users are not using obvious, easy-to-guess passwords. And obviously, password manager logs that will be reflected in directory insights. So there's a whole lot of interesting stuff coming. Keep telling us what you need, and we'll keep updating the password manager. And with that, I'll move it on to Greg.
Thank you. All right, so device management. A lot of great stuff happening. Of course, some of the projects we'll talk about here are major initiatives that have been in flight a while, and we've been talking a little bit about that. So I'll give you some updates today, as well as share some information about things that are just releasing and right around the corner. So why don't we jump into it? All right, so number one on the list. So a lot of you have been very excitedly waiting for the ability to use Microsoft's standard out-of-box flows. So that's called UBI flows. That's something we've been working on. The larger story here, of course, is that in order to support this, JumpCloud needs to support the MDM protocols on Windows. So moving forward from a strategy standpoint, you should expect to see that JumpCloud will have the ability to blend the agent-based management with Windows MDM-based management. The two are very complementary, so this is going to be a great addition. But the fringe benefit is that if you do want to send a machine to an end user and you just want to run them through the standard Windows UBI flow, you'll be able to do that. With JumpCloud, of course, is the source of authentication, and JumpCloud also registered as the MDM. If you do have end users who already have a machine and you want to just have them enroll, you'll be able to do that through settings, again, through the Microsoft standard approach on Windows. But if you want, you'll also be able to do it through the JumpCloud portal. Now, those latter two flows are what we'd call MDM only, so that it doesn't require you to do an Azure AD join. That's a little bit of detail, of course, that you'll learn more about as we get closer to releasing this. You should expect that the Windows management capabilities will grow over time. Initially, we're focusing on the onboarding experience, but you should expect us to be looking at different policies that are advantageous with MDM, such as app management policies, as well as baselining. So moving on. Next up, another big in-flight project, Android management. So last year, we released iOS to enter the mobility game. We are now getting very close to having a version of Android management available. Of course, it will do everything that iOS does today and a little bit more. This will be a certified version by Google. So that means we'll support the work profiles initially. We will handle app management as well as the required user policies, PIN code enforcement, things like that. So when this lands, you'll be able to do everything you need to connect JumpCloud directly to Google Enterprise and manage your devices, both COD as well as BYO. So really excited about this one, a long time coming, and once this one lands, we will have given you a full mobility experience, and then you can take care of all of your end users on their mobile devices. Next up. So this is a bit of an update. As Chase mentioned, we released Remote Assist live mode at the end of last year. There's a lot coming in 2023 with Remote Assist as an overall product line. And it's of course starting with the live mode, which is what you can think of as the lowest common denominator, meaning the user needs help and they put in a support ticket. The IT admin contacts the user with a session token, and then they, through user opt-in, share the screens on their user's machine. We are working on some enhancements already. So for that live mode, we will have an alternative to the session ID. We're calling it prompted assist. So imagine a pop-up on the machine where the IT admin says, hey, will you let me access your machine? And the user can approve it without having to enter in a session ID. So that's an enhancement we're excited about. We have a couple other enhancements to live assist mode, such as controlling the delivery of those components via the JumpCloud admin console settings. So that's now in the product. And we're adding copy and paste support. So always adding more features to Live Assist. We're pretty excited about that capability and welcome more feedback. Next, Chase. So we are working as well on Silent Assist. So this is the ability to look at what's happening on an end user's machine without their approval. So this is another level beyond. This is something, of course, that if you have a corporate-owned device and you don't want to worry about a user on a BYO or anything like that, you can just go straight away and view their screen. This will allow you to switch users and be able to handle all of those nominal features that you would expect, and is going to be a great step forward as part of the Remote Assist story. This will, get you probably, 80 or 90% of what you need to really take advantage of an end-to-end end user lifecycle from the remote assist management perspective. More to come later this year. We're going to be fleshing this out fully into more of a true RMM solution as well. So there'll be different components that will add to this that'll make it even more powerful. So we're really excited, and this is just right around the corner. Next up. So something that's in flight right now and is just coming around to being deployed is the agent through CDN. So today, the JumpCloud agent is downloaded via US pods. That's a challenge, of course, as we grow as an international company in EMEA and Asia. And we are now going to be putting the agent in the CDNs, so you'll have faster downloads, more responsive downloads abroad. We are adding more and more components. So it's initially the agent, its components. We'll be adding Remote Assist, and every other sub-component this way as well. So a very exciting convenience feature for you that we're happy about, and this shows how our company is starting to mature as a global presence. Next up. Patch management. So a lot of progress has been made here over the last year, and now in 2023, we are continuing to build on our momentum. So we just released browser patch policies for Chrome, and what this gets you, it's really simple, really powerful. we can configure Chrome and prompt you, your users, to update the browser version by restarting. That's a courtesy. You can also set a configuration now that you couldn't previously to be able to force restart. So that's a big ask that many of our IT admins have had for the longest time. And that's now in the product. So if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to check that out. Our customers are using Chrome about 90% of the time, so highly biased towards this. We are, for what it's worth, adding Firefox and Edge support as well with a very similar mechanism. Safari, of course, is taken care of in the OS level patch by Apple, so we've pretty much got all the bases covered. After we finish this up, we're going to be working on third-party app management. That's actually starting to be in flight now. And this will be looking at those top enterprise apps, as you might expect, to make sure that they're up to date in a very seamless way. So check out Patch if you haven't yet. It's a really important tool to have in your suite to keep your employees safe and secure. Moving on. Okay, so getting into policies, I've been updating you a lot over the last several months on what we're doing on Windows policies. BitLocker is a huge area of focus for us because, of course, it's the most popular policy at JumpCloud, and we've been making steady progress. So we have recently gotten to the point where we have now a complete policy that gets you encryption on all fixed local disks. So previously it was only essentially your C drive. Now it can be everything. And then we've improved the behaviors around TPM enabled machines by allowing a reset. So that makes your troubleshooting easier. So we've hardened it as well. So right now we have a pretty robust policy set. We're very excited about it. In the future, we'll be looking at encryption for removable drives, and looking at fast encryption scenarios. So that will get you sort of those Cadillac level features as well. But right now, try it. It's a really powerful feature. If you have it already deployed, look at the options that you might want to upgrade to. It should be a seamless switch. Next up. Policies on the Apple platform as well as Linux. We're making progress there every month, every quarter. We just released content caching policies. We now have pre-built policies for Malwarebytes, SCEP cert deployment policies, as well as proxy policies. On the Linux side, we've added an additional SSH timeout policy. So, check those out, and of course, give us more feedback. If you ever see policies that you want that you don't see in JumpCloud, we have a team dedicated to adding policies every month into the platform. That's going to keep going and, be very deep. It'll be the most robust, of course, in the market over time. Next up. Commands. So commands is one of the most, of course, used features in the entire platform. This is critical for managing your devices. Some admins use it for deploying apps. Some use it to run custom scripts that map to your organization's security postures. There's so many things that you can do in terms of configurations, and this is a very important area for us to enhance, and we've been working diligently at it over the last year. Previously, we added a commands visibility queue so you can control it from a high level. We recently just added command templates. So this is both in our MSP portal as well as our core admin portal, where you can essentially reuse commands. That's available now from a templated based approach. Another one that we're really excited about is there's a new command type for on agent install, and what really that means is on enrollment. When you get a new device and enroll it, you can automatically apply certain commands, so you can fire and forget it. Next up. Now, this gets really powerful when we couple it with the OS default groups. So you now have the ability coming to specify when a new device enrolls, and we know what OS it is, you can default it to a certain group. So you can say all Mac OS devices, all Windows devices go into the core employee device group, as an example. And once you do that, that core device group, you can have binds of certain policies. So you can have default policies applying to a default group, and every new device will go into that group of a certain OS. So you're starting to get more of that seamless fire and forget enrollment flow, where you can take the combination of things I just shared and make sure that new device enrollments are getting secured and your policies are applied. So this takes away a lot of the manual effort for IT admins, and more to come there. We're really going to be focusing this year on orchestration and seamless experiences. So really excited by what's happening here. Next up, it's the data team. Sundar, over to you, sir.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you now. Perfect.
I started off by saying fingers crossed. I hope this works. We had some issues in the beginning. Hi, everyone. Sundar Jayashekhar. So I lead the data services product team here. Massive roadmap from Eric, as you saw, from identity, auth, directory, and from Greg's team on device management. So if you're wondering what is that we do in the data services or data products, primarily the job we have is to make every other product come to full fruition and to give you all the visibility that you need as you use all of those products. So we do this in a number of different ways. We generate logs, we collect logs, and from the raw data, we generate events, and from events, we provide you insights. As many of you know, there are services that we own, such as Directory Insights, System Insights, Cloud Insights, the reporting service, as well as your homepage, widgets, and dashboards. So those are all things that fall into the data realm. And we want to continue to engage you guys and give you all the data that you need, right? The primary purpose of the existence of this team is to maximize the data we generate within the JumpCloud ecosystem, so that you know what's happening within your JumpCloud ecosystem. One. So I thought, thank you. So I thought I put together a mission statement just because, you know, sometimes I've had these questions from customers as to, hey, what is that the data team actually does? So it's not very obvious as it is in either Eric's team on identity or Greg's team on device management. So let's just go through the mission of the team real quick. So our mission really is to provide, you know, the analytics and observability and insights into everything that you're doing within the JumpCloud ecosystem, right? So we collect telemetry required for us to do the job. We do this in a scalable manner. As you know, as the business grows X, data usually grows 3x and 4x. So we're building systems so that we're able to handle all of the data, munch the data, and provide meaningful insights to you in a very reasonable amount of time. So generating events and building the data connections and relations between everything, between identity, between devices, between commands. All of those things are the challenges that we've taken on to solve. So let's look at some of the things coming. I'll also kind of spend a little bit time on what we delivered. On Directory Insights, as you know, we have 16 new events that we launched in the fourth quarter. We have 2 new upgrades coming to the Directory Insights product. One is better events descriptions. For those of you who are intimately familiar with the product, we give you the JSON with all of the details that you need, but we also have a plain description of what that event means. What we heard from the customers is, look, a lot of the times we have to go to the JSON to get some of the quote unquote basic information. So what we've done is we've surfaced a lot of that JSON information in the English description, to the extent that our goal there is in 90% of the cases, you really don't need to go to the JSON to understand what's going on with that event. So that's what we're calling better events description, and that's coming. In fact, we are code complete on that. I'm cheating a little bit. We will deliver that in the next week because we had a code freeze in the last 2 weeks of the year. Search bar. Search bar is another very critical event that a lot of you asked for. As we generate more and more events in these insights products, it becomes really hard for people to kind of, we don't want to make it a needle in a haystack kind of a problem. So search is really that feature that will allow you to drill down to a particular user, a particular device, a particular login, geolocation, whatever you're looking for. This really helps in getting to the data that you need really fast. And we've added 16 new events, like I mentioned earlier. So what's coming in Q1? So a few things. One of the things we have for Q1 or FY23 in general is to help you all with better compliance-related use cases, right? And one of the first things we are trying to do is, as you know, in Directory Insights or any of our Insights products, the data we retain is up to 90 days for paying customers, right? And a lot of you said, look, we need at least 12 months. We need just at least a year for compliance reasons. Not just compliance reasons, but just for historical reasons. You know, I want to know when Eric was added to the system or what did Eric do, say, 8 months ago, especially around security too. It's not just compliance. So we are extending retention to 365 days. At least that's the hope. And we hope to get that done in Q1. And a lot of the work here involved is back-end work, you know, going from 90 days to 365 for every customer, for every action they've taken is a tall task, and we expect to get it done this quarter. We're also, in the interest of better usability of the data that we collect and produce to the customers, we're unifying data structures. This is a little bit of the back-end work, but what we're trying to really do here is do better data cataloging and unify the data structures across all the events, just so that it means two things, right? The first thing is you have a common set of attributes across all events, right? A common set of attributes like, you know, time and location and user and device and a few other things. And then then they have a universal meaning across all of your events. Right now we have several number of schemas, and we're just trying to consolidate all of that into a single schema, just for better clarity and usability. And like we added 16 new events, we will continue to add new events as Eric and Greg add new services. Each one of those services demands new events. And we're also going back and fixing some of the gaps where we have services, but we don't generate relevant events. So it's a combination of fixing some of the legacy event gaps and also generating all the new events for all the new services as we launch them. So reports, as I said, is one of the pillars within the data services. Our goal here is to be, what we essentially do here is talk to you guys and talk to you all and say, hey, what kind of reports do you want to see within the JumpCloud portal? And we have a very healthy backlog of a set of reports that you have all asked for, and we just go down the list and provide you that, and plus more. In Q4, you know, patch management was a huge thing coming out of the devices team. So we partnered with them, and what we delivered in Q4 is browser patch management policy report, as well as the OS patch management policy report. Essentially, when you look at these reports, every line that you see in this report is for a device per policy, right? If a device has 4 different policies, you have 4 line items that gives you the status of that device against that particular policy, right? And we've gone furthermore to give you the policy status, whether it's compliance, or for example, if there's a failure in applying the policy, we give you an error code so that you can go and fix. So all of these things are within the realms of compliance. You know, once you have a policy in place and it's an important corporate policy for you to adhere to, you need to be able to report on, hey, I have 2,000 machines, how many of them are compliant against this policy or not? So that's exactly what we provide through these reports. So in Q1, we'll continue the journey. We'll keep adding more reports, but we're going to focus and gravitate towards 2 things: the Open Directory platform that Eric talked about, as well as device as a gateway that Greg talked about. So you will see more and more collaboration there and more reporting along those two themes. The 2 other things we're doing, one is report filtration. Sorry, Chase, a couple of things. I'm not going in order, I apologize. So report filtration are features that we are providing, not necessarily new reports, but within the reports, capability to filter. For example, we have something called users to devices reports. We want to be able to, today you have to just download everything and then you do some post filtering either in a spreadsheet or an Excel. So we want to bring in some of those filtering capabilities into the reporting functionality itself prior to generation of the report. That way you don't have to generate the entire report, which sometimes might take tens of seconds if you're only looking for a particular user. We're also adding some report aggregation. This will be really useful for the MSP business, as well as any one of you who are using the multi-tenant portal, which is multiple clients within the same organization. So we're bringing some report aggregation there as well. Next slide, please. MTP widgets, I actually didn't have the real estate to add all the widgets that we've added both on the admin portal as well as the MTP portal, so I've left that out. But as you can see, we've come a long way in the homepage, right? I don't know if anybody remembers how the homepage looked maybe a year ago to what the screenshot looks like, which is what it looks like today. Our goal is to keep adding widgets and also give you all the customizability of what widgets you want to see and which ones you don't. Think of this as the landing page where if you come in with a morning cup of coffee, which is the biggest fires that I'm looking at. So that's really the essence of this admin portal or the landing page. So we'll continue to add stuff to this page and give you the configurability. If you don't like something, just toggle it off. It won't show up. If you do like it, then it will. So again, we're focusing on some of the MTP bulk action-oriented widgets to give a unified list of users and devices, and also be able to take bulk actions across them. This is something that MSP side of the business are really requested for. So if you're using the MTP portal, you'll benefit from this. Next slide, please. Again, I won't spend too much time on this. This is to just emphasize on the amount of data that the team deals with. So we're doing a number of things to increase speed, increase scale, and increase clarity. For example, the MSP ticketing integration is something that we've realized we need to do things at the back end to be able to generate tickets in a sub 1 second scenario, right? There are some use cases for compliance and security where the ticket generation has to be super fast. So we're doing things on the back end to fix that. Obviously, we're moving on to a modern architecture that includes Kafka and data marts to just be able to handle the scale, the growth of the data, the scale that we're seeing, as well as the data cataloging. The data cataloging kind of ties back to the unified schema that I was talking to about before, where it brings more clarity, not just to customers, but also the internal services as they use more of the data that's generated within. The data clarity is extremely important, especially with thinking about things like exposing these events to customers directly. A lot of you have asked for it through either webhooks or through some kind of data streaming model. So with those things in mind, coming later in the quarters, these are things that we're fixing right now to enable those things in the future. Next slide. I think that's probably it.
Well, thank you all. There is a ton of stuff coming out in Q1 and beyond and all these other pieces. Just wanted to take a quick moment and say, hey, we actually have a dedicated team behind this to help you either implement for the first time or whether it's advanced customizations and scripting, whatever that might be. We have a team of professional services right here behind you as you embark on this journey or continue the journey with us. And so with that, I've already seen a bunch of questions starting to fire off. And if you haven't yet, feel free to run through or kind of add any thoughts that you might have when we start to dive into that. And then I think we're going to launch a quick poll. So as you start to think about those questions, you can start to have that in, and we will start that. Okay. So there's a little speed vote there, but hey, we will take it. So we're going to be transitioning into my favorite part of all of this, which is hearing kind of all the different questions, feedback that you might have for the groups and the team. So I'm going to take a minute here. Let's see if we can kill this sharing real quick and start to open it up. All right. So first question, Eric, kind of within your court, OpenID Connect. We had a few folks that weren't quite aware of it, kind of other pieces. How can people start to take advantage of this new protocol kind of integration?
So if I'm guessing these are customers that are currently using SAML to integrate single sign-on applications. If you have any applications that you've built in-house or applications that support OpenID Connect versus SAML, you can use that as a different way to federate authentication and to single sign-on into applications. What we have today in the platform is a generic connector that allows you to configure on your own. In the future, we're looking into also building some pre-builds for some specific applications. Try it out.
Perfect. All right. Next question, kind of also within your area, thinking about push bombs and kind of that push fatigue that users might be experiencing. We're doing a lot of work on the back end. Are there going to be any actions or other types of things that admins will be able to take out instead of just the users themselves?
That's a really good question. So yes, the moment we actually have the ability to have a user flag, deny a request and say, I'm denying because this is a fraudulent attempt, an admin can take action on that. And an admin can lock an account or can revoke a credential and enroll a user in a new credential and take action on that. There may be in the future also the ability to identify that a push bomb is happening. For example, 50 attempts happened within less than 2 minutes. Something is happening. That is something we're debating, and we may be adding into the platform as well.
Okay, perfect. Starting to run through here a couple more. So now kind of shifting over into some of, I would say, the devices side of the area, Greg. And so question, so OOB for Mac end users, does that even apply, or kind of what does that look like within the scope here?
Or for Mac OS? Good question. So Mac OS out-of-box flow is already supported today. That's the ADE flow. So that's something we've had for a long time. So if you haven't tried it, you can do that today. And that will work with all Apple devices. So Windows, of course, is the next to come. And of course, there's no notion of that on Linux today.
Got it. All right, and then the next question, kind of thinking about remote assist, both kind of within live and some of the enhancements, but then also without end users, so kind of within that silent mode. The question kind of, hey, this could be, somewhat invasive. We're not quite sure how to quite position that with our end users. Curious if you can go a little bit deeper into what that might look like, or kind of the controls that users and admins might have to making sure that it's a secure connection when that's happening.
I see. Yeah. So there's a couple dimensions here. There's your policy internally and what will you allow. There is then the how do you ensure that there's no abuse. And so starting with policies, of course, the remote assist product is intended for you to map your own security policies of best practices, meaning if you're an organization that doesn't want a silent mode because it may be too intrusive, you would only use the live mode, which always will have a user approval. For most organizations, because they're corporate-owned devices, you can assume as part of your employee agreement, et cetera, that you can access machines and that there's no guarantees to privacy. Of course, every organization needs to evaluate their policies, but that's more or less mapping to a standard corporate disposition. You would have the choice to use live or silent mode. You would, of course, expect to have controls, and you will, so that the IT admin can choose which mode is available, and that, of course, will map to said policies. All the connections between the devices are peer-to-peer once they're initiated and are fully encrypted. So there is going to be privacy, and there's no risk of a session being man-in-the-middle, so to speak, because of that. You'll also have default session lengths. So today we default it to 120 minutes for live assist, but you can configure that. The idea is that sessions do not persist and that they are ephemeral. So we of course are building security into the platform from day one.
Okay, perfect. Let's see, a couple other here, just while I'm trying to group some of the questions together. When thinking about browser support and patching kind of other pieces, one will be when you're thinking about the roadmap for other browsers, others that kind of a little bit farther down the line, like Brave, and kind of looking at those.
Yeah. So obviously we're gonna start with the biggest browsers. Something like Brave, which may not be in that sort of big four. That's something that we're going to monitor in the community for feedback on. We know that we'll over time address. It's more of a when. And that's going to be based on feedback. So we're going straight down the browser share list, as you might expect. But some of our customers, for instance, who may over-index on Linux, so we definitely have a lot of Linux users at JumpCloud. We'll look at those, what we'll say are, non-standard browsers, from the perspective of the big four. So no specific timelines. Obviously, Firefox and Edge are the next to come. Those will probably be, in H1, not likely to land in Q1. That's start, not finish, but we're definitely working on it. And just like policies, we're continually taking feedback, and we have a team that's looking at this. You should expect over the course of 2023 there to be a regular cadence of new third-party apps that we support, new policies, and of course new browsers. So it'll be sort of a trickle of features coming out on a continual basis because new apps, new situations show up all the time in the land of device management.
Okay, perfect. Let's see, one more for you before we start to switch over to some more of the data questions that are starting to come through. And just as a quick call out, folks, so we're starting to see, some that I'd say more detail driven that we will follow up individually as a team. And so if you don't have answers here live today, we'll be following up here shortly after and make sure that we have everything covered. Last piece, just kind of coming back into live assist mode. How many concurrent connections can you have now, and if there's enhancements there?
Yeah, so from an end user's perspective, there's only one connection. The IT admin, of course, could spin up multiple. The question is, if they should, but it's technically possible. There is a bit of a boundary case here too that's worth mentioning. That is, hey, can multiple IT admins connect to the same machine at once? And that's a discussion we're having. In the first iterations of the product, we opted not to include that. We wanted to have a more simple, straightforward security posture. But we will look to have sort of joint admin sessions so you can do, troubleshooting together from a peer perspective over time. But you should expect that, again, will be developed based on community feedback. I want to underscore that we're very focused on security of this feature and making sure we're making slow and steady but secure progress on the platform.
Perfect. All right, so we have a couple call outs. Eric, you have been asked to play a song on the guitar and drums. And Greg, we also have requests for your hats. So keep that in mind as we start to go through a few more of these questions. The next question for you, Sundar, just in terms of thinking about the data structures, I think there's a lot of excitement in terms of the ability for us to extend from 90 days into a full year, kind of what that looks like, as well as the enhanced reportings. However, we still leverage some seams within our organization. So if there's any plans in terms of other import and export features from JumpCloud into other third-party applications.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I alluded to very briefly in the conversation is for some of the, big and small, it used to be big customers asking for, because they have in-house SIM products, whatever, Splunk or what have you. They need the raw data as well, right? So we are definitely looking at it. Like I said, some of the things we're doing right now in terms of larger retention period, as well as the unification of schemas and some of the backbone we're building will help us get there. The thing that we need more engagement from customers is how they want to consume the data. Would they like a data stream, like a Kafka stream that they can just maybe subscribe to a topic, or would they need something like a webhook, right? So there are a couple of ways we can do that. Obviously, we want to do the most relevant one first and then build our muscles there. The webhooks is where we're leaning towards. But again, if anybody wants to reach out to me and engage me on, maybe there are other technologies that they use that might be better for integration, I would love to hear that. The long story short, yeah, we're definitely looking at it. We're building the foundation to get us there. But it's definitely something we're looking at.
Okay, perfect. All right, and so in looking through, there's a few other questions that I guess just actually support kind of some existing technology, other features that are within that, as well as some other questions. So I will run through a few of those here. In terms of, there's a question in terms of location and geographical based conditional access. And so that's one of the pieces that we look at today when we really kind of think about it from IP addresses and other pieces when you're starting to look at that. I guess, Eric, beyond that, are there any other enhancements, things kind of thinking about when you're thinking about location in addition to conditional access? Because I know we've talked a lot in terms of up-leveling the security of the device and making sure that that device as a gateway into all those access points is more secure and has more conditions on it.
Yeah, so I think I'd break it down into maybe 3 or 4 categories. The first one that we currently have is user context, location, network, right? Am I on a corporate network or not? Am I coming in from a specific region or not? Am I on a trusted device? The next level down in sophistication is really, okay, I'm on a trusted device, but what is the content of that device? That's what we're focusing on right now, right? Which is the device set up with the most updated software, with an antivirus? Is it encrypted? Can I gain confidence about that device before I allow access from it? And then take a decision based on that. We're looking at the next phase after that, and there are a few options. Some of them are more sophisticated context scenarios. For example, are you coming in from a malicious network, a Tor? Some anomaly detection capabilities. Are you coming in at the wrong time of day? Are you impossible travel, right? Have you been in the US and then you're coming in from Singapore 2 minutes later, something's wrong. So that's something we're looking into, basically including risk-based evaluation and authentication as part of the conditional access policies. Not fully determined yet, but that's the next kind of thing we're looking into.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, Chase, can I just add a few things? One thing I forgot to mention, I wanted to clarify, customers can pull the data today through APIs, right? What we're trying to do is, that's a pull model, right? So if we're trying to get a push model where they don't have to worry about and write software on their side to pull the data. So I just wanted to clarify that the webhook and the Kafka streaming, data streaming is all push model where they don't have to worry, we just send the data to them. But the solution does exist today in the pull model through APIs. They can pull whatever data we generate today, that's available.
Perfect. All right, and then we've actually had a few questions come through just in terms of the admin app and other pieces. So I can give a quick update there. So we've actually been fiercely working on that. As Sundar alluded to earlier, we're making sure that we're silently secure during the holiday season and other pieces. But we actually have an active list of beta users, and we're looking to push that live here shortly. We didn't include on just kind of webinar slides and other pieces because it's coming relatively soon. And so if you'd like to be included in that, we already have a couple names and emails from these questions already. Feel free to throw that in, and we'll make sure that it is expanded as that is coming out and getting into your back pockets here soon. All right, and then I'll look through and see if there's any other quick questions that we can cover for the rest of the audience. All right, already a few more beta testers are already starting to come in, and I think that should about do it. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today, especially as we start. We'll get you back on time as we reach the top of the hour, for joining us today and kind of taking a quick preview into all the things that we're looking at, not only within Q1, but also setting us up for success as we enter in this new year of 2023 with a lot more features to come. As you can see, we're already getting a lot more feedback. So please reach out to your account representatives or just anyone here within JumpCloud in general, making sure that we can have those. And there's always the submit feature idea request within the console itself. If you don't feel like doing that, you can just type in a quick note. We have a dedicated team that pulls in and aggregates all of those to making sure that we prioritize all these amazing features for you. So with that, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to having you on the next roadmap session here in a few months. Talk soon.